some of us are back, huh? What's up?
Exact, that number on the board, yeah, he's actually, right,
It's a page number in the book.
Oh,
we go to,
What's that?
we go to,
Yeah, you can if you want to. I was just gonna tell you a story, something that happened to me on Saturday.
Doing what? Something with the throttle? The valve bottom?
Okay, so. Saturday, about lunchtime, I had my Trans Am out, I got a 73 Trans Am, right? So I parked in front of my house in the street, because I couldn't get into the driveway because there was a car there. So after I got everything moved out of the way, I went to pull the car in the garage. So I started it up, I couldn't get it out of park. It was stuck in park. Remember, there's no electronics on this car, so there's no like brake switch, nothing like that. So I went, that's weird. I mean, I was pulling on the shifter so hard that I was gonna break it. It would not come out of park. So at this point, the car won't move. So I roll the jack out there, I get underneath it, and I disconnect the shift cable, just to make sure the cable or the shifter is not messed up, right? Try to manually just turn the linkage and get it out of park. Won't come out of park. So again, the car is stuck in the street where it is, I can't move it. So I thought the only way to move it is pull the drive shaft out of it. So I got underneath it, pulled the drive shaft out of it, and then pushed it into the garage. So I get underneath it, and everything's disconnected, but it's still stuck in park. I couldn't figure out what was going on with it. So, never seen that happen before. So I dropped the pan. The reason I told you to go to this page is this guy right here, this spool valve, the manual valve, this is the one that moves when you move the gear shifter. Okay, it slides in and out of the valve body. Well, you see this little rooster comb thing here in this picture? There's a nut that holds this on to the selector shaft. That nut came loose. It allowed that thing to kind of wiggle back and forth. And that selector shaft is connected to this hole right here in that spool valve. So it allowed that valve to actually bend. And it's stuck in the valve body. And I couldn't move the shifter.
How the heck did that happen?
you manually,
Like, how the heck did that happen?
you got stuck in the valve.
Pretty crazy, right?
Oh my God.
I actually took a
But that just
video of
opens
it.
a lot of doors for a lot of people.
So, if you look, here's the video. That's the nut right there.
Oh, I see it.
Right there, see it?
Yeah. Yeah.
I had already tightened it at this point, but it was loose. There's that manual valve right there that you see in that picture, see it? Now watch this. Watch this. See it's bent?
Ah.
But at this point, it was stuck in park. I moved it, got it to where it would go into park, but it will only go into park, reverse, and neutral. It wouldn't go into drive or lower reverse because that valve was bent.
Oh, snap. Now, wait a minute, how is it that it allowed you to drive initially, but then once you stopped and went to park it, then it
Apparently, because
decided?
that little valve will rotate in the valve body.
Oh,
Okay, so apparently, when I put it in park that time, it turned itself to a point to where it was bent and it would not go back
Cause
in.
that nut was loose, so it just,
Because that nut was loose, that allowed that little rooster comb thing to move back and forth, and when it did that, it was putting side pressure on that spool valve enough times that it bent it. And it stuck in the valve, I couldn't get out of park. So I found a transmission shop that has one, so I'm gonna go get a spool valve on the way home, but it was weird, I've never seen that happen before.
You know what would be the cause?
What's that?
Do you know what was the cause?
I know exactly what the cause was, that nut came loose that holds that rooster comb.
Was just loose, or just?
Yep, it just came loose. When I first saw that, I thought, well, that's all that's wrong with it, I'll just tighten that up. So I tightened it up, and it still didn't work. That's when I rotated the spool valve and found out that it was bent. Because it has to be a perfect fit, you know, so it's a very, very close tolerance in there. So that valve has to fit the valve body perfect. If it's bent just a little bit, it just sticks.
that's
So-
not something that's common, that doesn't
No,
normally happen.
and that's what I couldn't figure out. I was going, well, I've never seen that happen before. I've never seen it get stuck in park. Or any gear really on a, you know, just a normal old school transmission with no electronics.
Yeah, for that.
There's
nut
really
to
nothing
become
to it, you know, it's
loose.
gotta be somewhere in the manual linkage, but that was the last thing I suspected, but when I got the pan off of it, I found it, but. So, that was my fun for Saturday.
How long was the job?
What's that?
How long was, like, were you doing it for?
It only took me about, probably 30 minutes to get the pan off of it and find the problem. But it took me at least that long to get it out of the street, because it was stuck in the street. The only way the car would move is take the drive shaft out of it, because once it's in park, the car won't move. So, I had to climb under, pull the drive shaft out of it so I could push it in the garage. So, hopefully I'll get that fixed in the next day or two.
Is it automatic?
Yep. Yep. So anyway, that's why I wanted to show you that picture in the book. Like she has. This guy right here, this valve was bent. This was the manual valve. This is what moves back and forth with the valve body when you change gears.
Mm-hmm.
So this was bent. So when it was in park, it just froze up in here. So, I don't know, you probably can see the little video clip on it. Anyway, that's what happened to it.
You know what would make this class better besides donuts?
A different teacher?
No. If we actually had, no, definitely not. If we actually had a car,
I know.
like two
I've
different
I've heard that
cars.
from almost every student, but here's the thing. The cars that you work on are at the shops. And I know it's not what we do each time. It's not like you're gonna go to the shop and learn about, you know, steering suspension this week or this, whatever. But there's just no place to put a car here. Plus, there's a bunch of liability stuff and insurance stuff, and we can't have a car here for us to go play with. Has to be done at, you know, at your time at the dealer, because you're covered, insured, and everything there.
Why
Yeah.
don't we just take a field trip to pick apart?
We could do that, or we could do
Like
like,
one day out of class, like once every blue moon, just meet up at pick apart. That's what we do. We go in and check it out.
You gotta pay $1 to get in.
It's $1.
it's a buck.
Where's
Yep.
that? Where's that at?
There's a few
There's
different
one
ones.
there's
The
one
one I
up
go
on
to,
Lake Mead and Losi.
the one I go to is on Lamb and
Lamb, I'm sorry, yeah, Lamb.
yeah, the one I go to is on Lamb and
Yeah, North Lamb, that's right.
I can't
Yeah,
remember.
there's only two, there's one in Henderson, one on.
Lamb and Craig is probably the
Oh,
closest
yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, Lamb and Craig.
Yeah, anybody else been up to Pick Apart Yard?
No.
No?
Pick apart.
You're missing
is
out,
great.
man, once you go, you'll wanna keep going back.
Yeah.
Cause they got a whole bunch of cars out there, you can just walk around there and grab whatever you want.
I've seen it on like YouTube videos and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
It's pretty cool.
I mean, you
'cause-
gotta pay for the parts that
You can get like a-
You just bring your own tools,
Exactly.
and you just walk out there and you find whatever you want, take it off the car, and,
Are the cars like,
They're categorized by make and model.
yeah, what's that?
are they like lifted already or you gotta bring like?
Yeah, most of them are already lifted. They take the
Yeah.
rims off the
Uh-huh.
cars and they
Yeah,
use those to
they
lift
use
it
them
up.
for jack stands, so most of the cars are actually already up in the air, so if you had to get under it,
Yeah,
it's
Just
already
flat
up
on
in the
the
air.
Is it like a junkyard?
Yeah, it's exactly what it
pretty
is.
much, yeah.
Yeah.
Are cars like damaged or is it just like?
All of them are.
it's a little bit of everything, cars that just got
Yeah.
wrecked and they were.
Some
totaled
cars
or-
up there were counted as totaled, but aren't, like, the
Uh-huh.
body is fine.
Mhm.
So if you need like an extra panel, like a door panel,
Yeah.
brand new door, you can get a
You
whole
need
door.
engine, need a transmission.
Yeah,
need
some of them
a-
have full
need
motors in them, you
suspension
could
part.
take them
You can
out.
get- You can get anything out there.
Mm.
So if you take one,
So
how
you-
much does it cost for you to like?
It just
take it
depends
out?
on the weight.
How much does it cost for the parts?
Yeah, just if you.
They have a kind of like a menu where each part is, you know, so much money, but really cheap considering.
Mm-hmm.
So you can basically build a car. Sorry to cut you off.
No, yeah.
Basically build a car. You can go there and you can get the pieces and you can build your own vehicle.
Pretty much.
I suppose you could, yeah.
Is it-
Or you could probably even buy a whole car if you wanted a whole car.
Uh-huh.
And then just kind of put it back together, but I don't know if they're allowed to sell you a whole car, but
I'm pretty sure you can. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're buying the whole car, as long as you got your own way of getting it out, like
Yeah.
putting it on a trailer, I don't think they would have a problem with that.
yeah, I don't
They
know.
just meet you at that side lot.
Yeah, probably.
How
They
much-
just pick it up with a forklift and throw it
Yeah,
on a trailer or
exactly.
whatever.
How much is like an engine? Would it take? Like,
Depends on the car.
Yeah.
they got Audis over there? Like,
They everything.
got everything.
Everything.
Yeah, like he said, they're all sectioned according to.
And that lot is
make,
fucking huge.
make,
Like
model, that kind of stuff.
the BMWs are like kind of in the back. Okay, so when you go in the entrance, you pass a bunch of trucks, SUVs, minivans, and then
Yeah,
you go
one
towards
side,
the
as
sedans.
you walk in, the right side is all trucks.
Yeah.
The left side's all cars.
And then I cut this right side over here, and then all the way towards the back is most of the sedans and everything. And kind of far towards, like, I want to say closer to the back, not completely the back. That's where the BMWs are, so it's definitely a walk to get there. But if you're looking for like simple things that you can order online, don't want to wait for, then you can get them. Like I was telling him one time, we went up to pick apart to get these little bearings, or not bearings, they're like little thick ass spacers for the. I think it was for now. I talked to him about it. I think they were for the fuel injectors, like right under the fuel injectors, like a thick metal
Uh-huh.
spacer. We had to put that in there right under the cams, and what's it called? We got 16 of them. We only needed 8, and No. We needed 16 because it was 2 for each. So we got 16 of them, and we didn't even pay for them. He's just go ahead. You don't doesn't matter.
Sometimes, yeah, if you get little
Yeah.
stuff like that, they'll just go, yeah, just
It's
take it.
literally a handful of spacers. He's like, "Oh, you're all good." But they if we were to buy it offline, it'd
Prices
be
are
like
really cheap.
$30. I mean, it's
Really cheap.
nothing different, but it's the same thing. They're not damaged. There's nothing wrong with them. It's brand new, damn
And
near.
they only charge you $1 to walk in.
Exactly.
Bring your own tools at $1,
Hmm.
you're good.
And the people there are cool as fuck. A lot. If you don't have a specific tool, somebody's near you, like, "Hey, can I borrow
Yeah,
this real
yeah,
quick?" Yeah,
yeah,
sure. Here you
yeah.
go. They don't care. They're cool. They're doing the same thing you're doing.
Yeah, so it's a good place to,
Yeah.
go and even just look at this stuff and learn about them, just looking at them, and,
Can we do that for extra credit?
yeah, that'd be
You
cool.
you
eh?
tell us like, "Hey, bring me this part,"
Yeah.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then I'll get you extra credit.
Yeah.
We'll go up there, spend $1, get it,
Yeah,
come back.
bring me a manual spool valve for a Turbo 400.
I got you. I'll find it.
Not that one in a transmission shop for $20. Okay, hydraulic power steering. If your car doesn't have hydraulic power steering, what does it have?
Electric.
Right, electric.
Carburetor.
Carburetor? Does the Monjay even know what a carburetor is?
No.
You know it exists, but you don't know what it is, right? Does anybody know what a carburetor is?
I know what it is. I just don't know what it does.
All I know is, can't you hit it to start?
What's that?
Can't you like hit it to make it work?
Well, that's a pretty sad way to describe a carburetor. You hit it and make it work?
yeah, anything on a car.
I thought that's what you did to your buddy when he wasn't working. You hit him.
Oh, isn't that just like what pretty much pushes in the fuel and the air for fuel ratio?
Yep.
That's pretty much all it is.
It's your air fuel ratio thing. It's what feeds the engine, air and fuel. That's what cars had before fuel injection came out. My old 73 has a carburetor on it.
Well, a lot of cars still have carburetors on them.
Nothing made in the last 30 years does.
Audis do. The Audi has I just worked on an Audi that has a carburetor.
Yeah, what year was it?
Oh.
It was old. Believe me, it was old.
But how?
Quick
It
question.
had to be from the 80s. Maybe 90s, but 80s probably. Yeah.
Why do we call cars cars, but I never see it anywhere in this book? Just automobile or vehicle, but we never see the word car in here.
I don't know.
That's a good question.
Has anybody else noticed that? I
I
haven't.
noticed it. Just I feel like it's just this more formal. because
Yeah,
everyone is going
probably.
through.
The car
So they never
sliding or
refer to it as a
Yeah.
car, huh?
Car,
Okay.
and same thing with the truck. They say trucks in here.
Yeah.
Cars.
I don't know. I never noticed that.
I guess they.
Sometimes maybe they'll just say vehicle, huh?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
just count as a
So,
vehicle.
because that kind of encompasses everything.
Yeah. But then again, if you say vehicle, you don't know if you're talking about a truck, a
Yeah.
sedan,
Could be a bus.
compact,
Could
exactly.
be anything, right? Okay. What do you know about hydraulics? We've looked at hydraulics before, right?
Liquid and compression and air.
Okay. We talked about Pascal before. The fluid, when force is applied to a liquid in a confined, in a container or an enclosure, the pressure is transmitted equally and undiminished in every direction. Okay, it works the same way your brakes work. Brakes are hydraulic, right?
So I gotta go.
It's the advantage of liquid over mechanical lever. Liquid has a volume but has no fixed shape. Yeah.
So I know it's not completely compressed, but in the way it works, would a water gun be somewhat counted as hydraulic?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. You got something that pushes fluid, right?
Yeah.
It performs an action, kind of, sort of, right?
Gotcha.
Yeah. Sure. Hydraulic fluid will transmit the same force when it passes through a single chamber or two chambers if it's connected by a narrow passage, such as you see on the bottom there. So what you're looking at is your input and output force. You see it's the same on both ends, right? Even though you got two chambers on one and a single chamber on the other. This is just going to go through some of the laws of hydraulics before it gets into the actual steering part, okay?
Gotcha.
Fluid applies a force equal to the applied force on the surface and is equal in size to the applying surface. If that surface is half the size, the fluid exerts half the force. If it's twice the size, it exerts twice the force. So here you go. Here's your example. Here's your little gauge is telling you that 10 psi of force is being applied here, right? Here's the gauge. It's pushing it through a 2-inch chamber, a 1-inch, and a 1/2 inch. You see the output force, right?
So they have those to depict the different sizes of vehicles, I guess, I'm assuming?
Where are you
Or the
looking?
different types in that figure 122, where it has the output force?
Okay, so what's your question?
Is that to show the different types of vehicles?
Different types of vehicles?
Yeah, and the
No,
design.
it's just explaining how hydraulics work.
But would it be different on like the 2-inch, 1-inch?
The only thing that's different is the output force. If you look at that, you have the same 10 pounds of force being applied. Okay, let's say this is your master cylinder down at the bottom for your brakes. Let's say. Okay, you apply 10 pounds of force to that, and let's say these are your wheel cylinders of brake calipers. If it's a 1/2 inch diameter piston or chamber, you're going to get 5 pounds of output force.
Right, I understand that.
If it's the same, you're going to get 10. If it's double, you're going to get twice the force.
Right, let me reword the question.
Okay,
Does it
do
depend
that.
on the type of vehicle as far as how big that chamber is? So like if it's a truck, will the chamber be bigger? Or if it's a race car, would the chamber be bigger? Does it matter? on the size of the chamber with the vehicle?
For the steering?
I suppose it would, but they're not using that to specify different applications for vehicles. It's just simply explaining how hydraulics work. That's
Oh,
all
okay.
it's doing.
I was overthinking it.
It's okay.
Why would the chamber have to be much bigger if it's, you know, a race car or whatever? Because we're specifically for most race cars, going straight the whole time. But for like the thought that when she said that popped in my head were like drift cars. I don't think that would need to make it bigger because you're turning a lot faster, and again, like I talked about last week, there's a lot more angle to it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but there's different size vehicles too.
Yeah.
You don't, I mean, you have these big old construction tractors.
Well, yeah,
And then
those
you
are
have
obviously going to be
smaller.
bigger.
So that's my question,
Oh,
was
then,
with
yeah.
this picture.
It
depicting the
could.
different
It's not what
sizes
it's-
with different types of
It's not
vehicles.
what it's getting at, but yes.
Was
Could
a
it be
big-ass
different size
Mack
for different
truck
vehicles?
like that, I'm
Absolutely.
pretty sure it'd be bigger.
Absolutely.
Because everything is bigger on those. It doesn't matter if it's a tie rod or not. It's gonna be way bigger.
What's the power?
I'm sorry.
Or the reason the question?
Oh, okay. So you were answering the question for us?
Smoother turn.
What's the purpose of power steering?
Be able to turn without moving.
Okay. So you either have
Oh
hydraulic
yeah, what is that number?
or electric?
That was a page of when he was telling the
You missed
story.
out on that.
I did. 1703 you said?
It was the page number showing you the manual valve and valve body, because that's what bent on my car that caused it to get stuck in park.
What number was it?
1703.
Oh. Okay.
You didn't get to watch the little video?
Nah, I didn't. Oh, the video on your phone? Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah, this valve right here is what was bent.
Oh.
So it was stuck in the valve body, so I couldn't get it out of park.
Alright, I
I
got you.
think I was talking to my car too. That I wasn't ever gonna expect what happened to my car. Check engine light went on for some reason. And I got the Toyota Camry, so I was like,
Oh, what kind of car is it again?
Toyota Camry.
Camry,
2017.
okay. 18?
2017.
Oh, 17. Okay.
So, because my dad had it for 2 weeks, if he was doing oil change rotation, he said, I'll do it myself. Alright. So he took it to get an oil change rotation. And something broke on the air filter thingy, you open the engine air filter to take it out. The clip broke, something. So he was fixing it. He's just got like a wire just to like close it. So you open it, it'll be easier. So then later, a few days, so he on my car, he's like, I need to move, so I give him the key, he moved it, right? Well, as soon as he on it, it made a weird noise, like it started going, it started revving up. I was like, that sounds weird. So I walked away and he called me, he's like, come outside please. And so I checked the engine light, I said, what happened? I was like, engine light's on. You gotta like,
I don't know.
say something
You're
happened.
supposed to know what happened.
I don't know, so usually what you said is open the engine, just look at it, just in case like something's spilling and
Yeah.
everything. So I opened the engine, I'm just looking at it, I'm seeing, okay, what's supposed to be wrong with this engine? So I just looked around and then, so you know that hose that connects to the air filter, you plug it in, and the air filter, it was not plugged in. I was like, this is the problem. He's like, oh, he took it out and I think he forgot to plug it back in because he was trying to reach for the thingy. So I plugged it back in, and it was like a clip, you have to clip it on. So I clipped it, and then I looked it up, make sure it didn't fall out, I pushed it in, and then that's it, I fixed it now, right? Now the check engine light's still on, I was like, what do I do now? So like, I don't wanna drive with this on. So then my uncle came, he drives trucks. He's like, unplug the battery and plug it back in and see if it turns off. So okay, well, that's my idea, so we unplugged it. I wait for like 10 seconds, I count 1, 2, 3, 4, I put it to 10, and I plug it back in, I tighten it, I on the car and it turned off. I'm like, oh, it's fixed.
Because you cleared the code.
Yeah, that's it.
So here's the deal. Here's a lesson for you. You fixed the problem, the light's not just gonna go off. Just because you fixed the problem, the check engine light is not gonna go off.
Why?
What's that?
Why?
It has to see a certain amount of ignition cycles without that failure in order for it to clear the code or turn the light off itself. Okay? So even if you fix a problem on a car because the check engine light was on, you have to clear the code. With the scan tool is the best way to do it. You don't have one, you can disconnect the battery, but then you're powering down the whole system, and sometimes you lose, other settings or whatever, presets or your clock or something, So, you can do it that way, it's just not the preferred method. So, like you said, you did the right thing. First thing you do is open up visual inspection, fixed it, didn't it? All you gotta do is look sometimes. Oh, there's a problem right there. Or sometimes you have an air intake, temperature sensor on the air cleaner, and somebody go to change the air filter, they'll unplug that and then put a plug back in, check engine light comes on. You can plug it back in, but the light's still gonna be on.
Yeah, for
You
some
have to,
reason.
you have to clear the code. You have to physically turn the light off yourself.
Yeah, for some reason I thought it was a oil change. Cause they were trying to put the rest in the car, and was like, put what the car needs. So I checked that, and then for the gas, he put gas in it for me. I was like, the car was 440 miles. I'm like, what? How did you do that? Cause usually when I put full gas, the max it says is 320 or 312. So he put, cause he does that a lot. He keeps putting, like, from the clips, he puts more. The clips, he puts more.
Bad
So
idea.
I'm thinking, I'm like,
Don't
you
do that.
mess up with the gas.
We've talked about that before.
I know.
When the pump shuts off, do not put more gas in the car.
Because, yeah, I told him, don't do that. It's not
Don't
good
do
for
it.
the car. The car needs
Nope.
to, like, breathe. It
Cause
needs like space.
you need that room in the tank for expansion and contraction, and you'll get fuel, liquid fuel in the vapor canister, and it ruins your evap system.
Exactly. So
Don't do it.
And I told him that, he said, no, it's like, it only happens to cars that don't have good fuel injectors. I'm like,
No, he's,
what? I'm like,
he doesn't know what he's talking about. There's a lot of bad information out there, guys, okay?
Is your uncle down here?
huh?
Is your uncle?
That's my dad.
Okay.
I'm like, something happens to your truck, don't come to me. I'm like, alright.
Okay, the purpose of your power steering, right? To boost mechanical steering so the driver can turn the wheel, less effort, get the same response. It's like anything else that's power, right? It's like your power brakes, you know, obviously it takes less effort to push the pedal than it does if the car doesn't have power brakes. Believe it or not, they did make cars with that did not have power brakes back years ago. Okay. Your power steering pump, it's going to have a pump if it's hydraulic, right? You gotta have a pump.
Yeah.
It's driven off of the engine with a belt, okay? Pump draws fluid from the reservoir, pressurizes it, delivers it to the steering system. You have most of them have remote reservoirs, meaning the fluid is not, the fluid reservoir is not part of the pump. Some of the older ones were, if you look at that picture on, oh, what page is that? 1497, the one below the ones that shows the hydraulic pressures. That's an actual all-in-one power steering pump. The reservoir, the pump, everything was all one piece. Well, due to space constraints and stuff like that, because of the way cars are built now, most of the time the power steering pump is just a pump with a pulley and the belt, and the fluid reservoir is remote, meaning it's off-board a little bit. So if you go to put power steering fluid or check power steering fluid in something, you can't find where to put it in, probably doesn't have hydraulic power steering, probably got electric. Obviously, there's no reservoir, no fluid, anything like that, if it's electric. All right. Forces and pressures involved. Typical steering system requires only 2 to 3.5 pounds of effort on the steering wheel to turn it. Your typical pressure generated by the pump. If you're going straight ahead, it doesn't require much power assist, right? Because you're not turning the wheel. Doesn't require much pressure, right? Normally looking about 150 psi. Turning a corner, about 450. Parking, that's when you need the most, right? Because your car's not moving. It takes the most power assist to turn the steering wheel if the car stops, right?
What do you think is better?
750 to 1400. So the power steering system generates a lot of pressure, especially parking lot maneuvers. Yeah.
I'm sorry to cut you off. What do you think is better, the electric power steering or the hydraulic?
I like the electric power steering better, honestly. There's less parts, and it actually works really good, very reliable. No pump, no belt, no fluid, no hoses. It's a great system. The electric steer is awesome. I have electric steer on my Cruise, and never had a problem with it. Just works flawlessly.
Because they really don't leak or anything.
There's
They
nothing to
don't-
leak.
There's nothing,
Yeah.
there's
There's no belt, there's no fluid,
nothing.
there's no pump, there's no hoses.
Nothing.
It's much simpler and it works
And
really
the
well.
hydraulic, they're constantly leaking, things are.
Yeah, hydraulics, you got a pressure hose, you got a return hose, you got the pump, you got the belt, you got the fluid, you got all kinds of stuff that, you know, there's nothing wrong with it, it's just that the electric is much simpler and it works great. We go through electric steer too, so don't worry. Okay, we've talked about pumps before. Again, the pumps on cars are basically, they all kind of work the same. You might have a centrifugal or hydraulic vane type. Okay. On your pump, you're gonna have a control valve. It's a spring-loaded pressure relief valve. Again, we've talked about this many times. Anything that's got a pump has to have something to control the pressure. They do it with a pressure relief valve. It just keeps it from overpressuring, okay? Okay. There is an example of an old style power steering pump where the pump and the reservoir was all one piece. So that's a pretty good pump. They've used it for years. My car has one of those on it. They do work very well. And they've used them for a long time. Proved to be a really good pump. But again, reservoir and the pump's all in one. This just sits inside the body here, fluid goes in here, so it's all one piece, okay? The only thing you don't show in this picture is obviously the hoses and the pulley for the belt. Typical remote reservoir. Everybody's seen those before, you know, where put power steering fluid in, got a picture of a steering wheel on it. Different types of pumps. And they're just gonna go through how a vane pump operates, which we've talked about before. We know how those work. Flow control valve, there's your pressure relief valve or your flow control valve. And just a spring-loaded valve, it's going to go in the pressure side of the pump. This is where the pressure hose hooks up. If you have hydraulic power steering, you have a pressure hose and a return hose. The pressure hose is the one that's under high pressure. The return hose, you don't have to worry too much about that. That's not a high pressure part of the system, so you could use like regular hose on it if you had to. Doesn't have to be a special high pressure hose. Okay. This is just showing you how that works. This is where your pressure hose hooks up right here. That's your how the spring-loaded check ball, how your it will just basically allows fluid to flow back to the pump if the pressure rises above a certain limit. Kind of like an oil pump pressure relief valve would do. Okay, hoses. How many hoses is it going to have? Two, right? Pressure hose and return hose, right? Okay.
Lefty.
Pressure hose, it's connected to that pressure relief valve, supplies pressurized fluid to the steering gear. Second hose is called the return. If it has a cooler on it, some cars have power steering fluid coolers, it's going to be in the path of the return hose because there's no real pressure there, okay? Reduces the temperature of the fluid before it returns to the pump. And there is an example. Your pressure hose is this guy right here. Return hose, go through the cooler.
Can you go back to that last picture?
Uh-huh.
How does it leave the steering gear and go into the cooler, but it goes to the same line as returning to the pump?
Yeah. So, it's going to go like this. From the pump, this is your pressure hose, into the steering gear. returns here. But before it goes back to the pump, goes through the cooler, cools the fluid, then the fluid
How
goes
does
back
it-
to the pump.
How does it like isolate the direction? Because it looks like it's, from the picture, it looks like it's the one line that goes from the cooler to the cooler as it matches up with the
Yeah, I know,
pump.
it's a pretty poor picture.
Okay.
You should, what this should look like is, it should have a hose going here, and then maybe over here, back to the pump.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not a great picture. Integral power steering system. Control valve and power piston applies force to the pitman arm. They're incorporated into the steering gear construction. Most of those with power assist are the recirculating ball type, which we talked about in the last chapter. That functions as the power piston. So as we go through this, it's going to talk about this rotary control valve that directs fluid, which you're going to see a picture of on 1501. Just shows you the direction of the fluid for whatever you're doing. Left turn outlet, left turn inlet, right turn, right, left, all that. Don't have to get too technical with this as far as how that works, but it does have a rotary valve. It applies force to the power piston, just reduces the effort needed to turn the steering wheel. The rotary control valve has two cylindrical elements, the inner and the outer. Inner valve is secured to the steering input shaft of the torsion bar. Output goes to the worm gear. This is like the one we saw in the last chapter. That's a regular recirculating ball, conventional steering gear, right? That should look familiar. And now we get to see it work. This will answer your question from the last chapter.
Oh, okay.
And remember, this is your sector gear, which is attached to the pitman arm, which moves the steering linkage. So when you turn the steering wheel, it rotates this, which moves this back and forth, which moves this back and forth, makes the car turn left and right. Right?
Can I see that again, please?
Absolutely. So what they're
That
actually
makes so
demonstrating
much
here is this
sense.
rotary control valve, how it directs the fluid when it's turned. So it helps assist it this way and then assist it this way. So you power assist both directions.
So on the picture that I saw, the sector, I understood why that moved, but the green piece, I forgot what that was called.
That's the net. They call that the, what was that, the ball net?
Ball nut, yeah. That one, I didn't understand how that moved because the bottom part of it, where it's at the the green part at the bottom,
Uh-huh.
it showed arrows on that part moving, but where the teeth are, it didn't show anything up there. So I didn't think it was one whole piece. I thought
Oh, I
it
got
was
you.
two separate things.
I got you. So now it makes sense, right?
Yeah, it
When you
makes a
get to
lot
see
of
it in
sense
action?
now. Yeah.
Now that blue thing stops the wheel from turning all the way, right?
I'm sorry?
That blue one.
Which blue one?
The blue,
Bright blue,
the squid.
the squid.
You talking about this guy?
Yeah, when you're making full turns and it goes like it stops, that's what stops it, right?
Yeah, when it gets to the end of its travel, it stops, yeah, yeah, yep. Okay, there is your rotary valve, showing the inner and outer elements. And there's your fluid pressure in the rotary valve, showing you what does what when it's turned which direction. And again, you don't have to memorize this, so just showing you how it works. Left turn, right turn. There's another kind of view of it. During a left turn, the high pressure fluid helps push the piston along the worm gear, thereby reducing the effort required from the driver. And it's going to go through each one of these. During a right turn, the pressure is pushes the piston up the worm gear, moving the sector shaft and pitman arm to provide assist during a right turn. Okay, rack and pinion. The rotary control valve on the rack and pinion is located between the steering input shaft and the pinion gear. Fully discharged by the valve, travels through the external steel lines to either side of the piston located in the rack housing. Better picture of it. So they're telling you how that works as well. During a left turn, it directs the fluid one way. During a right turn, it directs the fluid the other way. This assists you in turning the steering wheel. It's like somebody pushing it as you're turning it, right? It's just, you're just using hydraulic fluid as your helper. All right. The way that flow control valve operates. When the power steering pump begins operation, the fluid from the output of the pump flows into the control valve. It then flows through the orifice where the pressure is formed. Pressure differential results in a higher pressure on the pump side than on the system side. As the pump speed continues to increase, the valve moves more to compensate for the higher pressure and flow. Then they're going to go through low speed, high speed. Again, you don't have to memorize this stuff. Pressure relief mode. Okay, anybody heard of variable effort steering? Remember that test question we had a little bit ago that said, somebody said, Tech A said variable ratio steering is the same as variable assist steering. I think you had that question.
Yeah.
Remember that? Or do you not remember?
They're not
Oh,
the
that was
same
the
thing.
previous question.
Yeah.
They're not the same.
Okay, so what's the difference between variable effort and variable ratio?
Oh, yeah, I think that's.
Remember that one? Yeah, I think you did have that question. Okay. Variable ratio means it just reduces the amount of turns you have to turn the steering wheel to get the vehicle right. Variable effort is just what it says. It will change how much power steering assist the system gives you based on vehicle speed. Do you need more power assist in the parking lot, or when you're driving down Freeway 75?
Parking lot.
Boy, I tell you, I had no power steering fluid. It's terrible. Try to back up, one turn, back up, one turn.
On what?
Solar mistake, I forgot.
Why didn't it have power steering?
Hey, that was a leakage.
Had a leak and it ran low on fluid?
Yeah.
Did it start screaming too?
Huh?
Did it start screaming too? Did it start making noise? They'll normally start making noise when it gets low on fluid. They get mad. They don't like that.
You have to know what time to like 70. We live in brand new Colorado. I had no without gas. And also I parked in the back. I couldn't even turn the wheel.
Had no power steering assist?
It was like nothing. Like it didn't.
It was a newer car?
It was newer, like brand new.
Oh, it was electric then, and then, so the electric motor wasn't working, the system wasn't working for some reason. Yeah, you ever try to drive a car with power steering, where the power steering doesn't work?
It's not
You start
awesome.
really quick, you'll realize how much you appreciate power steering, because the steering wheel is extremely difficult to turn. Remember when I told you I had that problem with my car Saturday? I had to push it into the garage? Well, at least I did one thing right. I thought, you know what? So I don't have to worry about trying to steer the car and push it at the same time. I just started the engine, so I had power steering. So I could push the car and barely use the effort to steer the car into the garage. So,
You got a steep driveway?
kind of, yeah. Yeah. I had a friend help me. There's no way I could have pushed it in the garage by myself, because the driveway kind of, you know, got a bit of an incline on it. But yeah, there's no way I could have pushed it by myself. Okay. Increased effort at lower speeds, obviously, decreases at higher speeds. Why would it decrease at higher speeds? Why doesn't it just be the same all the time?
Is it a high speed you want to turn it?
Because you don't need all that pressure assist at high speed, right? Anybody ever play a video game with a car, steering wheel kind of thing?
I have a whole setup. I have the entire thing.
Steering wheel is really easy to turn, isn't it? That's how your car would be driving down the freeway. Can you imagine how dangerous that would be?
Yeah, but some games they have force feedback.
Yeah,
But I
I'm
do know
just
what you're
talking
saying.
about the
Yeah,
old.
I know what you're saying.
Old,
Yeah.
old school where they didn't. There was not much technology. There
Yeah.
it was just a steering wheel, and it was just you could just spin it.
Yeah,
you know?
that's how it is. But like again, it depends on the game. Sometimes
Yeah.
you just throw it and it'll just keep spinning.
Yeah.
But the other ones, like when you turn a specific way, But like push
So-
it back so you really gotta
So
hold
the
it.
faster you go, the less power steering assist you need, right? But
Yeah,
if you have a lot of assist and you're going down the freeway, the car starts feeling sloppy because its steering wheel's so easy to turn. That can get kind of dangerous, right? So that's why it reduces the amount of assist as you go faster on
That's
this,
why newer sports cars.
on this variable effort. What's that?
On newer sports cars, like on my car,
Uh-huh.
you change like the steering level, like you do tour, street, no, tour, sport, track.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's your suspension adjustment for your electronic suspension.
Oh, it's not for steering?
Because it's
It shouldn't affect the steering. It will change the valving and the shocks for different rides, different feel, for performance or just comfort or just sport or whatever, right? So yeah, that's your electronic suspension control.
Because when you put it in like track mode on Camaros, I noticed when you're in the parking lot, you turn the wheel pretty heavy then on turn. You just put it on regular mode, or it's just so light for the regular car, but you put it in.
So it affects the effort on the steering too?
Yeah, it makes it a little heavy.
Okay, so maybe yours does that too. Yeah, I wasn't aware that it would affect the effort on the steering, but maybe it does. Have you noticed that?
I mean, I've tried to like click through, but I can't really tell the difference for it.
Yeah.
Or like
Maybe some do, some don't. I don't know that the Camaro does. At least I don't think it does. I don't know.
Some will probably the other ones, that's what I mean.
You talking about a
The
ZL
other
one?
ones, yeah, those ones probably.
Yeah, they might,
Those ones are good.
because that's more of a track car, the ZL one is, yeah. Some examples of what they call this:
evil.
electronic variable orifice, good flow, speed sensitive steering or magnet steer. Electronic variable orifice, they're just gonna tell you how each one of these works. As the speed increases, the control module provides a higher current flow to the solenoid piston or positions to change the pintle, to change the size of the orifice. Increased speeds, obviously you don't need as much flow. On the two-flow system, it has an actuator solenoid operated pintle valve that just basically gives you two settings, maximum or reduced. Solenoid is energized whenever the vehicle is approximately 20 miles per hour or lower to give you maximum assist. That's when you need the most. If it's over 20 miles an hour, you get minimum assist. And on a speed sensitive, that will vary with the speed of the car. The amperage has a direct effect on steering effort, flow rate into the chambers and spool shaft. Steering effort adjustment begins the same way, about 20 miles per hour. And on the magnet steer, that has a variable bidirectional magnetic rotary actuator built into the steering rack. Electromagnet acts in parallel with the input shaft from the steering wheel to open or close the spool valve. With vehicle speeds below 45, increased current gives you more assist. Below 45, decreased current gives you less assist. All right. We're not gonna get too crazy with that. So basically, this is just kind of a little picture about how this is going to work with that electromagnetic actuator in the steering rack there. Purpose of variable assist, obviously more at low speeds, less at high speeds, just gives you a better feel, makes the car a little bit more comfortable to drive at higher speeds. Diagnosis. What do we know about diagnosis? Just like what you did, right? Visual inspection is always good. Okay. Items to check: worn, loose, defective pump drive belt, misaligned pulley, lower contaminated fluid, broken or loose power steering mounting block, underinflated tires. If tires are underinflated, it'll be hard to turn, right? Just like it's hard to push.
Why do they, I mean, I'm pretty sure I know the answer. It might be a kind of common sense question, but why do the tires squeal so much on smooth pavement when you steer?
Like when you drive into the shop?
Yeah.
Like, not just the shop. I know they're gonna squeak just because, even if they are fully
Yeah,
know,
just,
aired
just
up.
because the floor's
Yeah.
select and the tires are actually just kind of sliding.
Yeah. But other places like let's say you're on like a freshly paved road and it's really smooth and not all bumpy, and if your tires are low, why do they squeal? Like is it just the
Because
same
there's
thing
more
as just
surface
pushing?
area of tread on the ground. Because as the tire deflates, you have more surface area of tread on it and more resistance.
Okay.
So it causes it to squeal, yeah.
Okay. Because I hear that a lot.
Yeah.
People just drive around, they make a sharp turn, it's just fucking squealing loud as hell. Like you're not going fast. I
Right.
don't know why it's squealing, but
Yeah, part of it's the road, part of it may be underinflated tires, yeah.
okay.
All right, well, items to check. We went through that already, right? Underinflated tires, internal steering gear, mechanical binding. Defective power steering switch if it has one. Engine idle speed below specifications, doubtful. Engine idle is controlled by the computer. Really no chance of the idle being too low unless it's a pre-electronics car. All right. Typical service manual, they're just telling you how to adjust the belt on this one. Everybody's done belts before. Again, always make sure you know how the belt goes back on before you take it off. I think this is the same picture they've used, or animation they've used before. Okay. What is a replacement fluid that you can typically use in power steering if you don't have power steering fluid? What could you use? Most likely, on most
Water.
cars.
Water?
What?
Water. You're killing me, dude.
ATF?
ATF, yeah, exactly.
See, I didn't even think about that shit.
Automatic transmission fluid can be used with power steering fluid. In fact, some cars recommend automatic transmission fluid. Okay? They're just telling you, like anything else, use what they tell you to use.
So if you get low on power fluid, like not moving steering wheel, something like that, or like not like when you're turning the wheel and it's hard to turn, that means you just check your power steering fluid.
Normally, if it's low and you go to make a turn, you're gonna hear the power steering pump kind of whine or growl, and it kind of gets mad when it's low on fluid. But normally, it'll let you know by the noise and a little more effort to steer it. Yeah. If you have to replace a component, such as a hose, steering gear, something like that, it's gonna get air in the system. Hydraulics don't like air, you know that, right? Bleeding the air out of the power steering system, pretty easy. Best way to do it is get the front wheels off the ground. That way there's no resistance on the steering wheel. Turn the steering wheel back and forth a couple of times without the engine running, and then start it. Usually that'll bleed it out pretty quick. Hose inspection, high pressure and low return hose to be inspected. Make sure they're not leaking, nothing wrong with them. We went through the pressures before. Straight ahead driving, about 150 PSI. Slow cornering, up to 450. Full stop turns, could reach 1400. Okay. Visual inspection, again, this is like anything else. We've gone through this before many times. They're telling you if the fluid looks bad, though. It could be flush. Anybody ever done power steering flushes on the services when you get cars in the shop? No?
Mhm.
Yeah,
It's a pain. Quick question.
okay.
On page 1509, and there's a note that says to help with the power steering system of unwanted trapped air, it is recommended that the engine be cranked and that the wheels be turned from stop to stop, okay? But then at the bottom it says, do not crank the engine for longer than 15 seconds to prevent starter damage due to overheating. So what does that mean, that you only crank it, like, I don't get what they're saying there. Like, I get what they're saying, but I don't get what they're saying.
Yeah. Well, I get what they're saying, but here's the deal. If you were to just crank an engine, you don't want it to start, you're gonna have to disable it somehow so it won't run. You have to disconnect or disable the ignition system or the fuel system, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what they're telling you is, they want you to crank the engine over so the power steering pump will start turning, but they don't want the car to start. Okay, so just kinda get the fluid moving, and then turn the wheel back and forth, that'll typically bleed the air out of it, and then you can start it. If you start it right away, sometimes that causes the air that's already in there to be worse. Causes the fluid to foam, it makes it harder to bleed. That's why they tell you to do that. Just crank it over, don't start it.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Get the pump turning, but not fast enough to start the engine, or the engine.
okay.
They don't want the engine to start, because again, sometimes that'll foam the fluid and cause, you'd have a lot of problems getting the air out of it.
Okay, thank you.
Honestly, you don't really have to do that. If you get the front wheels off the ground and just turn the steering wheel lock to lock a couple of times slowly with the cap off the reservoir, don't overfill it, because it'll spill out when you do it. That will typically bleed the air out of it. Then you put the cap on it and start it. All right. Rotate the steering wheel lock to lock 5 to 10 times. Again, with the wheels off the ground, because it's a lot easier to turn it. That'll normally just bleed the air out of it, and then you're good to go. Typically not hard. A lot easier than bleeding brakes. System should be operating temperature before you check it. A lot of power steering reservoirs have a little dipstick on the cap. Probably seen that before, right? So you can check the fluid level. And if it looks bad, looks burned, it smells burned, or it's, looks like crap, probably should flush it. Multi-purpose power steering fluid, sometimes ATF is a substitute. In fact, GM had a service bulletin out for a while where they told you to flush the power steering fluid out of it and put ATF in it. So they wanted you to actually replace the power steering fluid with transmission fluid. Just showing hose inspection. Make sure the pressure hose and the return hose are looking good, not leaking, not anywhere where they can be damaged. They do have pressure gauges to check for pressure if you had a problem with your hydraulic power steering, you thought the pressure wasn't good. You can install a pressure gauge with a shutoff valve. There's actually a power steering diagnostic kit or pressure test kit that you can use. That shutoff valve is used to test the maximum pressure of the pump. So what that does is that will force it into pressure relief mode. So you can find out what's the maximum pressure that pump is capable of. Okay, that's the purpose of that shutoff valve on there. Yeah, it's just another way to do the bleed. All right. Most power steering pump service can be done without removing the pump. You can replace the high pressure hose, the return hose, you can clean the flow control valve, but that's about it without pulling it off. Most of it requires removal of the pump from the engine. Most pumps are not repairable. Just gonna put a new one on it, okay? See the flow control valve, we saw that already. Sometimes the power steering pulley, in order to get that off the pump, because if you buy a pump, you're not gonna get the pulley, okay? You're gonna have to use a puller to pull it off, and then an installer to put it on the new one. It's a press fit onto the shaft there, okay? So if you do buy a new power steering pump, you're gonna see how it works right here. They will not give you the pulley, you have to take the old one off.
You said they will not?
Nope, it'll come just like you see it without the pulley. Sometimes they'll come without the reservoir too, so. And then there's a special installer that you just screw into that threaded part on the pump shaft tighten that up and it pushes it back on. Simple procedure. But that pulley is a press fit onto the shaft, so you gotta have a puller and installer to swap it, okay? More special tools. Sometimes you'll actually have to pull the pulley off of it just to get the pump off, because sometimes you can't get to these bolts with the pulley on it. But most of them will have holes in it like that where you can just rotate it to get to the bolts, but some don't, so. You may have to pull the pulley off before you can even get the pump off on some cars. That's a submerged power steering pump that we've seen before. That was on the older cars where the fluid reservoir and the pump is all one unit. They're just gonna take the pump apart here. We don't have to worry too much about this. Rack and pinion removal. What are they doing right here? Everybody's been on alignment, rack or help them do alignment, you know what that is, right?
Locking the wheel.
Yeah, not only do they keep holding it straight, they're trying to keep it from moving as well, so, yeah. Okay, so why would you do that if you were replacing a rack and pinion?
So the wheels don't turn.
So the steering wheel won't turn when you disconnect the shaft, right? What's the issue if the steering wheel turns? Who cares? What's that? Well, yeah, so you get it lined up perfect the way it was before, yeah, that's part of it, but there's another component to this. We talked about it before, nobody knew what it was because we kind of skipped over it real quick. It was the wiring between the airbag and the steering column.
Bumps.
What's that thing called?
Bumps.
Oh, what?
Bump
Talking about
steer.
bump steer thing.
Uh-huh. I'm talking about the electrical part for the airbag, the wiring for the airbag.
So they
Airbag,
won't blow
steering
that
wheel.
shit off?
Clock spring, remember that?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that clock spring is basically just a coil of wires. So when you turn the steering wheel in your car, if you just had wires connected to it, it would pull one way and then do a slack the other way. Eventually those wires would break, right? So that clock spring has a whole coil of wires that allows you to turn the steering wheel without the wires, without pulling on wires all the time and breaking. So, if you disconnect the steering shaft and the steering wheel will just rotate, you can just take your finger and just spin it, right? So what's gonna happen? It's gonna break that clock spring. And then your wiring to your airbag doesn't work, and then your airbag light's on, and then you gotta replace it. Okay, that's the other purpose of that. But you were right. Keeping the steering wheel straight, get it lined up back the same way, so you want to put it back together, it's straight, and it lines up.
I got bent over, you put something on the brake too.
Yeah, there's a brake pedal depressor too that they use too.
And I think you put it in five or something, I don't know what you put it. Or you just put.
Well, he probably put it in neutral,
Yeah.
and then got it where he needed on the line rack, put the brake pedal depressor on it, and the thing to hold the steering wheel. Yeah. Yeah. Your alignment rack's gonna have both of those, a brake pedal depressor and a steering wheel, holder. Okay, so what's he doing now? Now remember, we're
He's
replacing the
removing
rack
the
and
nut.
pinion, what's he doing now?
Removing the nut,
And
tie rod.
nuts are
Removing
removed.
the tie rod end, the nut, the tie rod end, right? Once he does that, what's gonna have to happen?
Leave it on there and beat it with a hammer.
If you don't have one of these, you can hit the steering knuckle with a hammer, and this will typically just come off.
Prefer to use
It's not a bad idea to spray this little penetrating oil, WD-40, something like that, helps it come loose easier, okay? Okay, then what? Now what is he doing? What's going on in this picture?
The bolt used to retain the intermediate shaft to the steering gear stub shaft is removed. That was my own words.
That is typically a 12 millimeter, 12-point bolt. That seems to be pretty common for almost everything. This is the pinch bolt that holds that intermediate shaft to the actual stub shaft on the steering gear. Take that bolt out, and you can just move that up out of the way, the steering shaft. Okay, once that's done, there it is. See how this was pulled off of here? The bolt's gone, as you can see, and it just slides out. See how this has got a flat side on here? So you can't put that on wrong. It only fits one way. And this little, well, you can't see it, but there's a little, kind of little groove in this too, where the bolt goes through. So when that bolt's in there, that steering shaft can't come out. So even if that bolt isn't really tight, that steering shaft can't come off of here. Okay, another well-engineered, foolproof steering thing, because steering is safety, right? Okay, now what's he doing?
Oh, so now he's taking out the rest of the bolts.
Yeah, this particular vehicle, you have to loosen the engine cradle a little bit so it can drop down so you get a steering rack. Not all cars would be that way, but, so he's loosening that. Putting one of those tall jack stands under there to hold it. Then attaching bolts for the rack and pinion. He pulled the bolt out, and you can see this is where it sits in here, so now you can just lift that up out of there. And now the whole thing is coming out. Oh, there's what I was gonna show you. See this little thing right here? That's where that pinch bolt goes to. So if you think about it, if this is, the shaft is connected to here and that bolt is through there, even if it's not tight, that can't come off.
Because of that bolt going through.
Yeah, because the bolt goes through right here and keeps that from coming off, even if that bolt wasn't really tight.
Yeah.
Putting it back together. Putting fluid in it, and you're all better now. And if it's electric, all you have to do is disconnect the electrical connector instead of the fluid lines, which makes it a little bit easier. I saw you try to steal it. There's a difference in yours. How you doing, Jared?
Good.
Jared? You gonna step it up this week?
Yeah.
All right. Oh,
I was gonna tell you that as soon as you got over here.
shit, you need to get a test.
So we have to take them out, maybe?
You can
There's
take
one
it.
class there, and I'll just take it.
Yeah, okay, yeah, after class you can just take it, yeah, that'll work. That will work.
You're a loud ass whisperer, bro.
I'm trolling him.
I figured.
Let's see, are you all done? Oh, yeah? Okay. You all done back there? Terrence, how you
I
doing?
got one question.
All right.
We can start now.
What's that?
So you can start.
Okay, we'll start when we get our last person here that likes to disappear in reclass. Or maybe we won't wait for him. Are you still working?
I'm just trying to figure out number 5 because I haven't found it,
Oh,
but we can go.
well, let's just see what number 5 says.
It's on 1506.
I see, I'm on that page and I can't find it.
It is on 1506.
Bidirectional magnetic,
It's right above 1506 Magnosphere.
that's right, and that's the answer I got too.
It's the second sentence.
Oh, I see it, right, there we go. I kept reading over it and I highlighted it and everything. Thank you.
Okay, let's go. Oh, are you done now or no?
Yes, I'm done now, yeah, that was
Okay.
nice. That was my other stuff. I selected the right answer, but I was just trying to find
Oh, you're
out.
trying to verify you have the right answer?
Yeah.
All right.
Which of the following represents typical power steering pressures? D, all of the above.
Anybody not get D? It is dog, okay?
A power steering system should be checked for all of the above.
Of course it should. Yeah, you did with this one, Charles.
Is it
Are we on 3?
A? 3.
We're on 3, yeah.
A.
Is it
I
A?
think it's C.
C, on page 1500.
C, no pigeon drive gear.
So what was number 2?
Number
D.
2 is everything.
Alright.
All of them. First 2 are all of them.
Okay, I'll read number 4. The power steering fluid is usually contained in
B.
B, a remote.
Remote mounted reservoir, yep. Magnosphere, we did this, right? That's a question you had, a question about.
Number 6.
Number 6.
2 technicians are discussing the proper procedure for bleeding air from power steering system. Technician A says the front wheels of the vehicle should be lifted off the ground before bleeding. Technician B says that the steering wheel should be turned left and right, the engine off during the process.
Is it both? I mean, B says
B?
the engine off.
What does Terrence think it is?
I actually think it's neither.
Neither?
Yeah.
The wheel should be up, right? Off the ground.
I,
It would be
I,
easier to move if the engine was on though.
I got C.
I think it's well. I think it's C too.
It is C. Both of them are right.
Both.
Bleeding the air, the front wheel should be off the ground. That way there's no resistance on it. You can just turn the steering wheel, right? Because you don't want the engine running. This guy says engine off, turn it to left and right. They're both right. All right.
A power steering pressure gauge is being used to diagnose the system problem on the rack and pinion system. When the wheels are turned all the way to the left, the pressure reading less than specification is found. When the gauge valve is closed, the pressure reading is within specification. Technician A says that the pump pressure regulator is bad. Technician B said that there is a problem in the rack assembly. Which technician is correct? Both?
Okay. Let's see what we got here. Turn the wheel all the way to left, pressure is less than it's supposed to be.
Yep.
Okay, he's got the diagnostic thing on there that's got the shut-off valve on it, okay? What happens here? Oh, when the shut-off valve and the gauge valve is closed, the pressure reading is within spec. So what does that tell you?
It's good. or gauge valve is closed.
If the pressure is low, when you're turning the wheels to all the way to the left, but when you close the shut-off valve, the pressure is normal within specs.
Then it's the regulator.
Yeah, it gotta be the pressure regulator.
Because if it was the rack assembly, then the pressure readings technically wouldn't matter, correct? If it's the assembly.
What does the pressure regulator do?
Regulate.
Regulates maximum pressure, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you close the shut-off valve, it forces the pump to produce its maximum pressure. This says it's within specs when you do that. How can it be the pressure regulator? It's obviously working right. Problem's in the rack. Technician B. Okay? All right. 8.
That's Tiffany.
Looks like he's gonna miss the whole thing.
Okay, oh my goodness, I didn't do this one. Why did I do this one? Technician A says that some power assist systems are used. Tech A says that some power assist systems use an external cooler for power steering fluid. Tech B says that the cooler is located in the pressure line before the steering gearbox. Which tech is correct? I apparently skipped this one and I didn't realize that
You did.
until now. So, I will take a guess.
8.
We'll see, I'm not sure if the cooler is, I don't think there's a cooler located in the pressure line. That I don't recall reading or you going over. So I don't wanna go with B. I'll say A because of the coolant that flows through the whole system and keeps it all cool anyway.
The fluid flows through the system, okay? But as it flows through there, it heats up just like anything would, right?
Mm-hmm.
So some of them will have a cooler,
Hey.
right? Where's the cooler located?
External.
In the return line.
Oh, the return.
Never in the pressure line. A only.
Well, I was right about
Cooler
that.
is never in the pressure side, always the return.
What can cause hard steering on a vehicle equipped with a hydraulic power assisted steering system? Any of the above?
Any of the above could cause hard steering on a hydraulic power assisted system. Lower contaminated fluid, slipping belt, low tire pressure.
And B.
You get to do 10 too since you weren't here.
Alright, pimp. Where is the rotary control valve located on a power rack and pinion steering gear? A?
No, D.
D, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I meant to
Who
say.
got D? All right,
No,
good,
you're lying.
good.
That's what I
Put the
meant to
steering gear,
say.
put shaft in the pinion gear.
I was just testing you.
Yeah, uh-huh.
You got D.
Yeah, I got D.
Okay, 122.
Can I see the
B.
progression? A and C? Or is it C?
C.
It's C? Oh, shit. B, A, C. Gotcha.
A partially
Are
clogged
we doing one?
filter.
I'm sorry,
We're on 1.
we are.
A partially clogged power steering filter can cause what type of problem?
Partially clogged.
I will go C or D. I will go D maybe.
Clog power steering.
Partially clogged.
Partially
like a
clogged, how
power-
could it overflow?
B?
Out of the top of the reservoir. Right. Power system.
Whose question is this anyway?
Charles.
What's that, Charles?
Yeah, go for D.
You're gonna go for D? Okay, somebody wanna throw in the lifeline? That's not it.
B.
That's not it either.
C.
All of them.
That's not it either.
Finally.
A,
Really?
a noise, especially when cold. Because the
Really?
fluid doesn't wanna flow when it's cold. Partially clogged filter. The fluid doesn't wanna flow, it's kinda like it being low, it's gonna make noise, especially when it's cold.
Doesn't it make like a purging noise, like a?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, yeah, I know what that is.
Yep. Okay.
How was Charles on number 1? I'm confused.
Well, I was the last one that read them.
No, you weren't.
Yeah. Wait, no, you read it twice, huh? You read 9 and
Yeah,
10.
that was your question.
Oh.
So this is your question.
A power steering pressure test is being performed, and the pressure is higher than Didn't
Oh,
we
we
do
just
this?
did that one.
Nope, we did not.
Oh,
We did.
and the pressure is higher than specifications with the engine running and the steering wheel stationary in the straight ahead position. Technician A says that a restricted high pressure line could be the cause. Technician B says that internal leakage inside a steering gear or rack and pinion unit could be the cause, which is correct.
What are you going with? We're doing a power steering pressure test, okay? Pressure, what's wrong with it?
Both
It's too high.
restricted.
It's too high, right? Engine's running, steering wheel's in a stationary position straight ahead, which means the pressure should be around maybe 450, right? It's too high. Okay? Technician A says a restricted high pressure line could be the cause. Technician B says there's internal leakage inside of the steering gear or rack and pinion unit.
I'll go with A.
Well,
Yeah, I think it's A.
I want to say both.
can't
I
both
really
things
do.
cause it?
I'll go with D.
So I was going with D, huh?
I don't think it's.
What you think, Terrence? You can sit there if you want to, if it helps you out. Like you can move to there if you want.
Okay.
Like if you want to get closer and maybe help you out, you know, feel free to take whatever seat you want. Okay? You don't have to hide in the back just because your buddy's back there. Okay?
If it's clogged, wouldn't it mean the pressure would be higher?
No, it's probably lower there.
And then a leakage would cause that too, no?
Is it cold?
I feel like the leakage.
Okay.
would
Think
make
about
the-
this. Would a leak cause high pressure?
No. It's
Yeah.
relieving pressure by leaking.
Yep.
So, it wouldn't
So you
be- I
know
think
B
it's
is
A.
wrong.
I think it's
Would
A.
a restricted return or a restricted high pressure line be the cause?
Yeah, it's a restricted high pressure line. It's high pressure, it's restricted. So it just
If
creates
you
more
restrict it, the pressure's gonna go,
pressure. Yeah.
right?
We just had a question that says it was clogged, it'd be cold.
Technician A.
You what?
The question before that was like, if it'd be clogged. If it was clogged, it'd be cold.
Partially clogged.
Oh, you know, the question before that was a clogged filter.
Probably.
Causing noise, especially when it's cold, because the fluid doesn't flow as well when it's cold. Okay, so we just got A for that one, all right?
I heard cars do better in cold though.
Say what?
Cars did better in cold.
They do better in cold?
They run better in cold.
They do, but fluid doesn't flow better when it's cold. Liquid flows better when it's hot,
Who'd you
right?
hear that from?
I heard after
Huh?
There you go, Junior.
Cars do run better when it's 50
No,
degrees
I
out
just-
rather than
not like-
110.
I don't like it freezing, but it's just cold.
Yeah, right, yeah, they do. Cars like 50, 60 degree weather. They don't like 110.
Cars just run, Land Rovers just run better in cold.
They do, absolutely.
Yeah.
Air's denser, you pack more air into it, right? Plus things don't heat up so much.
I think it's your question,
And the
right?
customer complains about the Land Rover stuff, but should not be used on
Of course they do.
High pressure hoses.
14.
SC.
1400, yeah. High pressure hoses have
I didn't
to
even read
be
the question.
special hoses to withstand 1400 PSI.
We already did
Oh,
that.
I know this one.
Rotary control valve, we did this one, right?
Yeah,
What's the maximum pressure for parking lot maneuvers?
1400.
Could reach that, right? Any of those, we did that one.
Pressure testing a hydraulic assisted power steering system. The highest pressure were greater than 50 psi of each other. This indicates a problem with.
Flow control?
Flow control valve, yeah, good.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, what she said. How much effort is typically required to turn the steering wheel? Anybody remember that one?
A.
Yep. 2 to 3.5 pounds of effort to turn the steering wheel, if it's working right.
Power steering system should be checked for all of the above. I'm not even gonna read them.
Where are we?
Hey, we're on 9, don't be skipping.
9.
Oh, I swear I didn't see you scroll it. What other inputs do/does the magnet steer use? I can't read.
That's both,
Yeah, both.
Wheel speed
What
sensor,
inputs do or does the magnet steer system use to determine the amount of power steering assistant needed?
C?
Wheel speed sensor. Wait.
We're on 9, love.
Inputs.
I'm on 9.
Oh. Oh, I just said C.
Steering
I
Give us
said
the
wheel.
answer,
yes.
Derek, what is it?
Huh?
This one's all you, dude. The weekend is yours. Yeah.
Huh?
I'm gonna go with a C for 9, right?
Yeah.
You gonna go with C?
Other inputs. Magnet steer system used to determine the
What does
power
airflow have to
steering.
do with it?
Power
Okay.
steering.
I think
So-
it's just B.
Wheel
So,
speed sensor.
what's that?
I think it's just B. What the wheel speed sensor got to do with power steering?
What does the math have to do with it?
Yeah.
Oh wait, no. Mass
How
airflow.
how does it know how to regulate
Both.
the amount of power steering assist?
Because if you're going faster,
By
if you're going too
vehicle
fast, you don't want it
speed,
to. Yeah.
right?
So
It's neither?
Wheel speed sensor,
it's a wheel speed sensor.
absolutely.
I said that at first. I actually did say it this time. I'm not lying. I actually did say that.
He did. He
And
did.
then 10
And
is
then
D.
10 is obviously all of the above. All right. All right. Yeah, we'll pick up the last 3 chapters tomorrow. You are gonna hang out and take the test.
Hey, you want my test so you can cheat? I got an F, so just don't.
Yeah.
Pay 10 times. I wouldn't even be saying that if I got an F.
Okay.
You looking like, damn, really? Oh no, it's not difficult. I went a little bit way too fast on the test 'cause I was